I think Kendrick Lamar's Control verse is the most impactful rap verse in hip-hop history. I do not mean the best bars. I do not mean the most memorable. I mean the domino effect that this verse had that led to the next 11 years is unlike the effect of any other verse. Now, before we start, let's just get it out of the way. Hit 'em up. Insane real-life impact. There is no denying it impacted two of the greatest rappers of all time, potentially part of the reason why we no longer have them. Rest in peace to Pac, rest in peace to Big. The real-life impact that Hit 'em Up had, I don't think any verse will ever match. But just hear me out about Control, okay? I posted this on Twitter yesterday, and let's just say it got a lot of replies. A lot of people agreeing, a lot of people disagreeing, a lot of people confused. So let's break it down. When Kendrick hopped on Control with Big Sean and Jay Electronica, who I always feel bad for because he had a great verse that I don't know if anyone's heard. I always say DJs could drop Jay Electronica's verse and you'd hear it for the first time. It'd be a brand new verse premiered by Flex. That being said, I'm a stan. J-Elec, if you ever want to drop an album, I'm here for it. I'm ready for it, okay? But when Kendrick dropped this verse, it not only shook up the entire rap game for the moment, but it helped shape what the competitive nature was for the next 10 years. I actually think if we want to look at who ran the next decade of rap, we really have to look at who Kendrick picked on this list. There wasn't really anyone missing. Cole, Crit, Wale, Pusha T, Meek, ASAP, Big Sean, Jay Electronica, Tyler, Mac Miller. Pretty good list. Of course, Jay Electronica didn't end up dropping anything. Besides that, everyone else was very active. And of course, there's this name right here. Here's where the domino effect starts. So in an interview with our very own Elliott Wilson, Drake sits down and is asked about the Control verse. And his response would literally be the start, in my opinion, of a rap battle that was silently and subliminally shaping over the next 10 years. Listen to what he said.
And he's doing his thing really well. And that verse was, he's giving people like moments, you know, like that verse was a moment to talk about. Are you listening to it now?
Drake goes on to criticize that nobody remembers how the verse starts and that they're not listening to it today. But what I would argue is that the verse had such an impact that it doesn't matter how it started. It doesn't matter necessarily about each bar. It's about the impact and the chain effect that verse had. It was even referenced in Kendrick's Euphoria 10 years later when he said this: "I hurt your feelings, you don't want to work with me no more, okay." Or as Kendrick said it, "I hurt your feelings, you don't want to work with me no more, okay." I'm sorry. I said I wasn't gonna do a Kendrick impression again, and last time, I'm done. But it's true, this was the last time that they worked together, and they didn't work together since. Now, of course, I'm not even denying the moment. The moment, I think, elevated the competitive spirit of rap to a point where it hadn't been in a long time. Pusha T said, "I hear you loud and clear." Mac Miller joked about having to use adjectives since he couldn't use another noun or verb. Tyler, the Creator, said it was awesome. Sean and Kendrick had some subliminals thrown back and forth. Joey Badass, who wasn't even involved in this, said, "This day marks a new rap game, know that." Haha. And even Eminem referenced the Control verse in another verse. But ultimately, Drake's response to the Control verse by taking it a little more personally than everyone else, whereas ASAP and Wale responded by saying, "Yeah, we get it, this is competition, this is competitive spirit." Drake is the one who said, "I don't understand it. If it's shots, it's shots. If not, it was all love the next week. I don't get what he's doing." Now that, to me, is what sparked Kendrick's reply at the BET Cypher and would respond back and forth over the next 10 years, which ultimately led to the most impactful rap battle of all time. And I mean impactful in terms of just the amount of people and the amount of mainstream culture that this battle infiltrated. This is the biggest that hip hop has ever been. So to have the two biggest artists in the genre right now go back and forth, this pierced mainstream culture. It was in comedy. It was talked about by magazines, radio stations, blogs, Instagram accounts, Twitter. Every single person in the world kind of knew to some degree that Drake and Kendrick were beefing, even if they didn't know the intricacies of it. And that all sparked from our guy Elliott Wilson asking Drake that question on stage and Drake's reply. So even if the verse itself is not your favorite verse, and even if you do not know how it starts, even though the real verse does start with "Tell Flex to drop a bomb on this shit," that does not mean that this shouldn't be in consideration for one of the most impactful verses of all time. You can argue "Hit 'em Up," I get it, and that's fine. I wouldn't argue back with you. But if there's another verse that I'm missing, let me know in the comments what the most impactful verse in hip-hop history is, and we can discuss it in the next video. My name is Jeremy Hegg. This is your DX Daily Dose. And Drake, I think we can all agree that even though you might not know how the verse starts, people are still talking about it 11 years later. Peace.
It's time to admit it, bro. The Control verse might be the most impactful verse in hip-hop history. Think about the landscape of hip-hop before that verse dropped. Everybody was collabing. Everybody was collabing on pop music and party music. Even the quality of projects were lower compared to 2013. You get to 2013, bro, the mixtapes, the albums, etc. are all career defining. And that Control verse really made people step up their game, bro. And that's one thing nobody talk about. Not to mention this rap beef and everything that we seeing today never happens if it isn't for this verse, bro. That verse changed everything.
Hi, Slater here. Welcome to Song Stories. Let's talk about Kendrick Lamar's verse in Big Sean's song, Control. For sure, one of the most memorable hip-hop verses of all time. Now at first, Kendrick does his normal thing and he spits an incredible verse as a featured guest, but as he goes on, he gets more and more braggadocious and starts boasting these wild claims, like how he's the king of New York and he's already amongst the greatest rappers of all time. But he also stops and uses this opportunity to call out some of the most popular rappers in the scene at the moment. It's not really a diss, but he's challenging them and he's pushing them to do better. After this, Kendrick sent shockwaves across the internet, and of course, plenty of rappers came back at Kendrick either with a diss track or subliminal shots, whether they were mentioned or not, but none of them were as memorable as the verse that Kendrick originally gave. Essentially, Kendrick single-handedly brought back the same atmosphere as the West Coast versus East Coast era of hip-hop. Thanks for watching and follow for more in this series. Until next time.
Hot take, I don't think it's healthy to only listen to Drake or only listen to Kendrick, and the reason being is because I think you're robbing yourself of two separate experiences. If you decide that you're only going to listen to Kendrick or if you're only going to listen to Drake, there are two things you're missing. Well, one from each. Drake is more on the emotional side, as everybody knows, and I think it's very important for you to express that at all times. Kendrick is more on the historical or logical, more of the pure art form. I mean, he'll touch on more emotions, but the emotions are really more touching on black plight or black struggle or things of that nature, so not everyone relates to that. I think Drake hate is too much, and I think Kendrick hate is too much. I think a lot of the Kendrick hate comes from the younger generation as well, because a lot of us have shorter attention spans and don't want to listen to what they feel like is a lecture, when eventually when we're older we're going to look back and be like, wow, that's actually not bad, which is crazy to me. Also, on the other hand, just because you listen to Kendrick and don't listen to Drake does not make you an intellectual. I think we sometimes confuse that. I think it's okay to listen to Drake if you're a smart person. Drake is great for fun, great for, like, you don't turn your brain off and listen to Drake. It's okay, bro. If y'all want more parts to this and why I think that's what it is, then let me know.
Who is Kendrick Lamar talking about on his new song? Kendrick just dropped a surprise track that has led some to believe that he's taking shots at Drake again. But he never mentions Drake by name here. And he seems to have other targets in mind too. So what's this song really about? Let's break it down. Right as the MTV VMAs aired at 8 p.m. EST, Kendrick dropped his new untitled track on Instagram. The placeholder title that fans have given it is Watch the Party Die. The VMA timing might play into the song's theme. Kendrick is criticizing the vanity and shallowness of the music industry as a whole and the artists who indulge in it. In other words, he's tired of the over-commercialized industry that glitzy award shows like the VMAs celebrate. He wants to see the party die. Kendrick calls out influencers, radio personalities, and rappers that report lies, blaming them for sullying the culture that he loves and vowing to burn it down in order to build it up again. Based on the labels that he chooses, Kendrick could be talking about literally anybody in the music industry or hip-hop media. Some have speculated that the radio personality that Dot is referring to is DJ Academics, despite him not being on radio because of the following bar where he says that they're pushing propaganda for profit. Academics has been accused of having bias in his reporting of the Drake and Kendrick beef due to the allegiance he has to Drake. And of course, he's received backlash over the years for sensationalizing hip-hop culture for his own gain. Kendrick opens the second verse with "Street is in the corporate guys, the rappers that report the lies," later saying, "No more pill talk and jump-started neighborhood wars," which could be in reference to No Jumper and how Adam 22 has used the platform to instigate real street violence through his interviews. The opening verse of the song is one of the few moments where it sounds like Dot could be taking a jab at Drake when he raps, "Just walk that man down, that'll do everyone a solid. It's love, but tough love sometimes gotta result in violence. If you parade in gluttony without giving truth to the youth, the graveyard is company, just tell us what casket to choose." These lines sound similar to bars in Euphoria when Kendrick raps about walking his enemy down with a poker face. Kendrick doesn't say his name directly in this song, but he seems to view Drake as a symbol of everything he dislikes about the direction mainstream hip-hop is going. This song is interesting because to me it sounds like Kendrick is taking the moral high ground and rapping from the position of a prophet, but his entire shtick on Missing Around the Big Steppers was that he is not your savior. The song's hook is a prayer where Dot is asking God to draw the line they trying to confuse him with me. And throughout the song, he criticizes clout chasers and culture vultures. Dot is right, there is a stark difference between them and him. But the way he presents it sounds to me like he's above it all and has reached this point of enlightenment, which feels contradictory to the messaging on his last album where he's saying that he's still a work in progress. This new song isn't a direct Drake diss, but how does he respond? Academics already said that Game 2 was never referencing him trying to continue the beef, but will he react to this new track? Was this song Kendrick's way of baiting Drake into another back and forth? That much is still unclear, but what's apparent is that Kendrick is locked in regardless, and so are we. For Complex, I'm Jordan Rose. Peace!
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Kendrick Lamar. My gosh. Somebody go check on Drake. Is he okay? The way this song has brought the whole West Coast together, I haven't seen anything like this since Tupac. And with this being the first time he's performed this song live, and it's a sold out concert. Okay, now, so a lot of you might not understand why Kendrick Lamar is important to the West Coast. Let me take you back to California 13 years ago. Some of the West Coast rappers came together, Snoop Dogg, Daz, Corrupt, Dr. Dre, The Game, Warren G. They came together and made a decision to pass the torch to Kendrick Lamar.
I'ma say this and I'ma mean this. Nigga, you got the torch, nigga, you better run with it. You better run with it, nigga, cause it's yours.
They really made the right decision because Kendrick has been carrying that torch ever since and keeping the West Coast on the map, holding it down for California. But seriously, somebody go check on Drake. Is he okay?
I remember you was conflicted, misusing your influence. Sometimes I did the same, abusing my power full of resentment. Resentment that turned into a deep depression. I found myself screaming in a hotel room. I didn't want to self-destruct. The evils of Lucy was all around me. So I went running for answers until I came home. But that didn't stop survivor's guilt. Going back and forth trying to convince myself the stripes I earned, or maybe how A1 my foundation was. But while my loved ones was fighting a continuous war back in the city, I was entering a new one. A war that was based on apartheid and discrimination made me want to go back to the city and tell the homies what I learned, where it was respect. Just because you wore a different gang color than mine doesn't mean I can't respect you as a black man. Forgetting all the pain and hurt we caused each other in these streets, if I respect you, we unify and stop the enemy from killing us. I don't know. I'm no mortal man. Maybe I'm just another. Man, go listen to Pimp a Butterfly.
Special big up. Shout out goes to Kendrick Lamar. Yeah. Powerful king. Powerful, powerful. My name is Dwayne Onfroy, father of rapper known as Triple X Tentacion. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for giving my son a platform when he was an unknown artist on his first single. You gave him a shout out when his album was released. You stepped up to the plate for him when a lot of people just stood by and stood back. And Spotify had him under pressure and wasn't even attempting to play his songs. Really, King. I've always respected you for that. Always. California was my home. Still love Cali. You understand? Kendrick Lamar, salute, salute, salute. Really out. Much respect, brother.